Exodia is one of Yu-Gi-Oh's most recognized monsters, introducing a completely unique game-winning mechanic and being featured in basically every single Yu-Gi-Oh video game ever since. Exodia is beloved by fans all over the globe. We've seen it obliterate opponents in the anime, in real-life tournaments, as well as more unique accomplishments such as Funbox beating Forbidden Memories using Exodia's win condition exclusively. Today, we'll attempt something similar. How many of you remember this game? That's right, we're back with Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monster Coliseum for the PlayStation 2, one of my personal favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Games. If you're not familiar with it, I've made a video essay explaining it a bit more thoroughly, as well as a challenge run beating the game only using Kuribohs. You can check these out in the description below. For those of you new to this glorious piece of entertainment media, I'll give you a quick rundown. Capsule Monster Coliseum, or CMC, is somewhat of a mixture of Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters and chess. A turn-based strategy game where you place monsters on the board, trying to defeat your opponent by either destroying all of their monsters or their key piece known as the symbol. Easy enough, right? Since there are no hands or cards to draw, Exodia works slightly differently here.
No! I just got Exodia'd!
In CMC, you can use the 5 individual pieces as regular monsters on the board. Once they reach level 2, you can fuse these 5 monsters into the Summoned Lord Exodia, creating one strong monster that also has a special ability called Obliterate, dealing massive damage to any nearby capsules. Capsules are monsters, just so we're clear. Since we can only obtain these pieces over the course of the campaign, we'll have to start the game with one measly leg and collect the rest as we advance. This means that the start of the game will be incredibly difficult, but we'll get to that soon enough. Let's cover the rules. As of writing this part of the script, I have no idea if this challenge is actually remotely beatable, but I'll try to do it with the rules that I think make the most sense. Should we end up hitting a brick wall at any point, we'll have to loosen them up a bit. The rules for now are the following. I am only allowed to use Exodia pieces or the fusioned Exodia itself, so I'm not allowed to place other monsters on the board to distract enemies or anything similar. I have to beat the campaign from start to finish on a fresh save file, and I cannot use monsters from other save files or cheat in any other way. Easy enough, right? Now that the rules are set, let's take a quick look at the campaign and why this challenge is so ridiculous in the first place. CMC features 5 stages with 5 opponents each. After each stage is cleared, the shop will update with new capsules, and as luck would have it, we can get our second piece right after clearing the first stage. Similarly lucky is the fact that opponent number 5, Grandpa Mudo, also uses an Exodia piece, so if we beat him and manage to destroy this piece in the process, we can take it away from him. This means that stage 2 and 3 will be played with 3 pieces, and if we manage to beat stage 3 without losing or surrendering, which is guaranteed since we can, just load the save file or save state if we lose, we get piece number 4, and in turn, once all 4 limbs are acquired, the head will also be obtainable in the shop. So from stage 4 and onwards, we can already either use the 5 individual monsters or fuse them into the whole thing. We might not go for the latter, since having more monsters that are high level is infinitely more useful in this game than having one strong monster. You have more attacks, more PP sponges, and can use multiple paths to attack or bait the enemy around the map. But make sure to watch the video all the way to the end, you might be in for a surprise.
What in Zork's name is going on?
Get your hands off my puzzle, you limey fruitcake.
Before we start, let me give you some general info on the game mechanics. At the start, CMC lets you pick one of 8 elements that follow a rock, paper, scissors system of advantages and disadvantages. It's a bit like the Guardian Star system in Forbidden Memories, if you will. Monsters and symbols can level up when they receive enough XP, and if both have the same element, monsters get stronger from symbol power-ups. Fortunately, all Exodia pieces are the same element, darkness, so we'll obviously pick that. Then we can distribute 3 stats. MP lets us buy our starting monsters, and we actually have to buy 10, even though only one of which is an Exodia piece, otherwise we can't continue the game, but the minimum amount of 400 is enough for that. AP is the resource that lets us move our monsters and symbol during fights. Stronger monsters typically require more AP to move and attack, so it's meant to kind of balance things out a bit. Last but not least, PP is the health gauge in this game, and even though I've already made about 1 million PP jokes in the last few videos, I certainly don't plan on stopping anytime soon. Brace yourselves. PP is coming. Since we'll have to start with only one monster, we won't need much AP at first, and we can get more once our symbol levels up anyway. We'll use most of the points available to increase our PP size as much as possible. The reason for that is simple. The AI in this game will usually try to attack your symbol whenever possible for a quick win, even if you can tank multiple hits easily. We'll have to use our symbol as bait and direct all attacks onto it, while our one leg either destroys the attacking monsters or sneaks around the enemy forces to go for their typically more fragile symbol instead. Once we get more pieces, this strategy might change slightly, but for now it's the only thing we can realistically do here. It's actually the only reason why I even considered attempting this challenge with this insane rule set. Let's see how we fare. I'll be honest with you, back when I had the idea for this challenge run, I thought it was impossible to win this duel with one single level 1 monster and a level 1 symbol. Joey's Fire Reapers kill basically anything from the starting shop in 2 hits, so we need to be extremely careful. On top of that, our Exodia lag has very poor attack range, which makes all of this even more difficult than it already is. At this point I should preface, I play this game in double speed at all times. The regular speed is just way too slow to sit through. Additionally, I will make use of save states since I already play on an emulator, which will come in very handy as I'll have to go back on certain moves and decisions if they lead straight into a loss. Just want to be transparent about the gameplay you're watching. My first plan was to lure Joey's monsters into rushing my symbol and then defeat them one by one. Joey, however, proves that he's not as incompetent as many people believe and starts moving his Reapers in a relatively tight unit. This way there is no way for me to eliminate them in time without getting our single monster destroyed, so we gotta try something else. The second strategy is to move our leg to this other side of the field and wait a few turns. Why? Well, because Joey's stage changes the water level depending on how many turns we're already into the fight. What I had only learned through this specific battle though is that the rising water level allows us to move over certain obstacles that we previously couldn't. This is game-changing. Our leg camps out in front of the blocked path, and since the AI does not detect any danger yet, it moves towards our symbol, with all 4 pieces, just as planned. Once the path opens up, we can carefully move the leg around his Reapers. Since Joey's symbol is still far away enough, it seems like the AI is not quite panicking yet. Luckily, the stage is quite big, and I can lure his Reapers away for quite a few turns before tanking the first hits. By that time, our leg is already attacking his own symbol, and now it becomes a race of who can deal enough damage first. At this point, I had believed to be safe, as our symbol would easily survive 5 attacks, and if we position it right, we'd easily squeeze in 2 attacks of our own. Joey's symbol has 200 PP, so this is surely gonna be enough, right? Yeah, what are the freaking odds? 99 damage per hit? Are you kidding me? Turns out we need 3 attacks, and my back is already against the wall. By moving our symbol into the very last back corner, we managed to survive with barely any PP left. One more blow from any monster would easily finish us off, but luckily Joey's efforts are too little too late. His symbol gets the 3rd kick straight in the PP, and contrary to everything I would have imagined, we beat Joey with a single level 1 monster. Incredible. While we are insanely lucky that Joey's stage featured a mechanic that let us essentially jump over obstacles to create new paths, Tristan's Condemned Warehouse features 2 rather tight lanes and a huge gap in the middle that's almost impossible to jump across. Perfect for our strategy. What's similarly perfect is the fact that one of his monsters has way more mobility than the others, while also only being able to move and attack diagonally. This means that we can bait it out easily, prevent a first attack by placing our pieces on non-diagonal tiles, and basically control the whole encounter. His other monsters do catch up though, and I definitely used quite a few save states here to figure out where exactly I should move to deal with them one by one, but alas, I found a good solution. First we get rid of the Scorpion, and now we could get rid of the 2 remaining pieces and win quite easily. This is actually what I did at first, and while this is enough to advance, we need to keep something in mind. The next few fights are much more difficult to win like this, so every single thing that makes us stronger counts. Destroying a symbol yields much more XP than a regular monster kill, so I have to try and see if we can pull this off here. Our right leg and symbol head across the Thunder Fields, which deal 15 damage to them after each of our turns. Thankfully, Tristan's moths are on opposite sides of the field, so we do have some time. We rush his symbol with our right leg and start to kick immediately, but unfortunately there are two problems. One, we are just shy enough of destroying it in 2 attacks, so we'll need a third. And 2, the right leg of Exodia has horrible attack range. It attacks diagonally and its range is only 1, so after each attack Tristan can simply move away 1 space diagonally and we need 2 turns to catch up to him and attack again. On top of that, we need to survive the whole ordeal ourselves while being chased down by 2 monsters. After trying this unsuccessfully once and getting our right leg destroyed by one of the moths, I decide to reload to an earlier game state and destroy this moth a few turns before, trading in valuable time for safety. As we then turn our attention to his symbol, it becomes apparent that our own symbol will not survive for much longer. Certainly not for 5 more turns if the incoming attacks don't stop. However, we are, once again, quite lucky with Tristan's map layout. Right behind our symbol lies the poisonous mushroom field. We cannot enter it, unfortunately, since our symbol is already on life support and 15 points of damage would actually destroy it immediately. What we can do is hide on the other side of this plant though, since we don't get any elemental damage here. This way, his moth needs to spend an additional turn moving around this obstacle to reach us. Great. We can also move around the same obstacle once more on the next turn, buying us even more time. Is it ridiculous that at this point the only thing saving us is this one plant here? Maybe. But hey, whatever's necessary, I'll take it. Now we're at our very last straw. One more turn and his moth is gonna defeat us for good, but it's just enough for our right leg to deal the final blow to Tristan's symbol and we win. Barely, but certainly. Our right leg gets the juicy XP from the symbol kill and levels up to level 3. We have the second opponent down and only 3 more to go until we finally get reinforcements. Wish me luck for the next one, as I will definitely need it. Back when I did the Karibo only challenge, Duke already proved to be a formidable opponent. He plays 5 monsters that synergize well and all have very good attack ranges. His map is small and has basically no lanes or noteworthy gaps. It's just flat, open battlefield, so exactly the opposite of what we need. Fantastic. Once I had defeated Joey, I immediately began theorizing about the next 4 fights and how likely I'd be able to beat him with these rules. Duke seemed to be the most unlikely one, so let's see if we can do something about that aside from loosening up the rule set. The short story is that I tried multiple strategies for baiting out his monsters to the right side and rushing over the small stage with the right leg on the left side. Lots of directions here, but bear with me. Due to the nature of this stage, this would always result in either the symbol or the leg being destroyed quite quickly. At this point, and considering how close the battle against Tristan turned out to be, I seriously consider going back to the start of the game, pump almost every single point into our symbol's PP so we might have one more turn during some of these battles. After all, it could be this one turn that separates a loss from a win. After a few more unsuccessful tries, I seriously start to feel like giving up. His monsters are just too mobile, there's too many of them, and they deal way too much damage. But then I remember he doesn't place his monsters in a parallel lineup. He actually has one side with 2 Karibos and the other side with 2 less mobile Scorpions. Maybe switching out the sides could make a difference so small yet likely impactful enough for us to have a chance. We bait his monsters one way, move our leg the other, tank a quick blow from one Karibo, which then luckily moves away again. And there it is! His symbol is within reach of our right leg's attack, and it would survive another turn since everything else is too far away to destroy it. But no, it's not enough. If we move onto this tile to attack, we do survive exactly one more turn, but Duke can simply move his symbol to this space here, and we are left completely actionless. No way to attack, no way to survive, no way to win. Except he doesn't do that.
What the fuck does that mean?
It's not the first time that the AI misses game-winning moves, even in this very fight, but a choice so obvious and so significant should not be overlooked. It's the only way for Duke to survive and the only way for him to win in this scenario, but it is guaranteed. 100% victory chance, and he just doesn't move. Weird, but we will absolutely take this opportunity. Duke falls, very much to my surprise, and the hope of beating this challenge gets to live another day. For those of you skeptic of this weird AI decision, I actually had to replicate this board state since I had not recorded the full thing the first time, and he literally does the exact same thing again. Now that I think about it, I had a similar situation in the Karibo challenge, also against Duke, and it seems that there is no RNG behind the AI's decision making. Don't ask me why, but this challenge is about beating the game exactly as it is, so it most definitely counts. 2 more to go. After beating Duke, I did feel pretty good about this challenge. Not for long though, as I knew that Thea would be no joke under these conditions. Here's the problem. Her stage is quite big, but rather long and narrow. There is only one lane, really, and the only obstacle is this taxi towards her side of the field. Usually, Thea will split up her monsters into 2 groups of 3s. One of them is comprised of 2 petite moths and the root water, so nothing to really worry about. The other group, however, is indeed worrisome. She plays 3 light monsters, which all have a direct advantage over our symbol and monster. Great. 2 of them also have insane mobility, up to 4 spaces per turn. Even better. So even though Thea poses a challenge, I believed myself to be strong enough at this point to beat her. However, this did not happen. There are a few reasons. Somehow, the right leg did not get the usual XP from destroying Duke's symbol. Usually you'd get a lot, this time it was way less and I have no idea why. Maybe there's actually a diminishing return on this and I just didn't know. Beats me. The result of this is that the leg is 1 level lower than I had expected, but that should not make that much of a difference really. Secondly, our symbol is destroyed very easily. The light monsters deal a bit more damage than other elements, so it takes even fewer turns than usual. On top of that, getting to Thea's symbol would take quite a few turns due to the structure of this map, so we are really fighting an uphill battle time-wise. Lastly, Thea uses her stage freaking perfectly. She blocks both ways around her taxi and refuses to rush my pieces until it's way too late for me to do anything. How the hell is she so much more competent than her predecessors?
Duke, did I ever mention that my nipples can supply power to a third world country?
Anyhow, after trying this more times than I'm willing to admit, it's time for a change. However, I really don't want to change the rule set yet. There must be a way to do this. Before we do anything drastic, I'll try the one thing that I still can. Load back to the start of the game, increase our symbol's PP size to the max, and redo all the fights up until now. Let's see if it's enough. Okay, so after restarting with a bigger PP size, we can tackle the first few fights again. We go for the same strategy against Joey, and oh wonder, it works basically the same. One difference though, it seems I can't quite kite his Reapers as well as last time, or at least I feel like they do more damage here than they did previously. Maybe it's just a feeling, but anyhow, our PP is big enough to overcome them all. We kick Joey in his duel, quite literally, and move on to Tristan. For Tristan's fight, I actually change up the strategy slightly. I still bait out the 2 thunder monsters first, but this time I also wait on one of the moths to come closer and destroy it. Luckily, Tristan always keeps one of the moths a bit more behind, so we can run away from it as we approach his symbol. This time, with more PP on our symbol and danger coming from only one direction, things are much more relaxed. We go after the symbol, just like last time, but this time, once Tristan moves away to dodge our attacks for a turn again, I simply place the leg in the field where he usually dodges onto. If the AI was smart enough, Tristan could still move diagonally in the other direction, which would amount to the same thing we had last time: move for 1 turn, attack on the next, and repeat. But he doesn't do that. Instead, he moves to the side, allowing us to follow up on our attacks immediately. Still, I get scared for a brief moment that he might actually send his moth to attack our leg as a last desperation move. This would have meant trouble, or at least less XP, but in the end he's still baited by a symbol and we can dish out the final attack. Next up is Duke. Once again, Duke proves to be an interesting fella. At first, I don't think much about this fight, as I plan on replicating the exact same moves I did before. Worked out once already, why not again, I figure. The problem is, I lose the card game at the start and don't get to pick which side I want to start on, so Duke actually starts on the side I had last time. Did I actively pick this one previously? I generally can't even remember. My first thought is, oh well, we can surely find a way to beat Duke this way around too, right? And while we probably could, I really don't feel like researching a new strat again and spending tons of time on reloading save states until I find one. After a few tries, I give up on this endeavor and load back into the card game, winning it this time and snatching the other side for myself. Another issue arises though. I seem to not remember how exactly I played the very first few moves during this fight. Something's not like last time, it seems, as Duke reacts differently than he did before. I could simply look up the recording and copy the strategy, but I figure now it's time to prove to all of you that I didn't just have a lucky moment and I actually got what it takes to beat the whole darn game with Exodia only. I tried to move in a similar direction, but get interrupted by a Kuriboh attacking my leg early. Sadly, I forgot to record these few moves here, but what can you do? This time, I managed to keep the symbol in a spot where it's not reachable for quite a few turns by any of his monsters, and I also managed to move the leg just out of range of the Kuriboh so that it rather moves towards the symbol instead. This works out decently, and our leg survives after almost being crumbled to dust. Duke goes all in with his 5 monsters, and we can sneak up on the symbol again, and similar to last time, he runs away into a spot that allows us to attack swiftly. What's also just like last time is that Duke is left with the option of defeating us with one simple move again. He could just move this Kuriboh in the back towards our leg, attack it once and destroy it for good. But being the strategic mastermind that I am, I move my symbol onto a spot where all of his monsters can attack it the next turn, including this Kuriboh in the back. Surely he can't resist such an exquisite opportunity. And this is exactly what happens, although he doesn't even attack with said Kuriboh because he runs out of AP first. Imagine that, what a loser. Duke loses to a single leg of Exodia again, even with a new improvised strategy, and we continue to the true first obstacle of this challenge, Thea Gardner. While I was waiting on my train home from work yesterday night, I had quite a lot of time to think about important things in life. How the hell I'm gonna defeat Thea in this challenge, for example, and at some point I had remembered that switching sides on this map might be an opportunity to find a way around her 6-man army of monsters. This is exactly how we'll start this ordeal. We steal her side, place our pieces, and wait how she moves. In all of my many playthroughs of this game, I believe this might be the very first time that I fight Thea on this side of the stage. It feels kinda nice, not gonna lie. She rushes in with her light monsters, as expected, and I try to see how many hits it would take to bait them in and destroy them one by one. The answer is 3, which is precisely what I had thought, so this idea is scrapped rather quickly. Instead, I load a save state from a few turns prior and immediately move the right leg towards her side of the field. We catch a hit from one of the moths along the way, but Thea is focused on our symbol way too much to hinder us. In a fortunate turn of events, I discovered this single field on the map where you can only be attacked from the front or diagonally, so I hide the symbol there to decrease the number of incoming attacks. This might give us just enough time to win this. As Thea swarms our symbol, we try to reach hers quickly. My hopes of having more turns available is shattered rather easily, as I'm reminded that Root Water has an attack range of 2 fields, so we need to hurry. Thea flees into this corner, but we can immediately dish out the first attack. Then something very bad happens. She moves completely into the corner, and while it takes a while, not gonna lie, I soon realize that in this position, our right leg of the Forbidden One has literally no way of attacking it. None. 0. Flat out impossible. What a disappointment. We tried so hard and we've come so far again, but in the end it didn't even matter. As I ponder if I should load back to the start of the fight or just try again tomorrow, a thought rushes into my mind. What if? Could it be possible? Is it really something I'm even allowed to think? There's no way, right? But, as I've learned in my fairly limited experience as a human being on this planet, is that doubts and fear can be your greatest enemies sometimes. So I just do it. I move the right leg one spot closer to Thea's symbol, even though there is no way that I can possibly attack it in its current position. All the while her monsters will have our symbol destroyed in 2 more turns guaranteed. But sometimes, just sometimes, the brave are rewarded. For some unexplainable reason, the AI does not detect that there is no freaking way for me to win this board state, and in an attempt to run away from my right leg, for whatever reason, Thea moves her symbol exactly in a spot where we can attack it easily, and so we do. Right before the turn, we would have lost this game. The second blow is fatal, and we win game number 4. It's a Christmas miracle, folks.
Oh, it's a fucking Christmas miracle. No, don't do 2. Okay.
This means that only one more enemy remains in the first stage. One more obstacle before we receive not 1, but 2 more Exodia pieces and advance into the second phase of this challenge. But can we beat Grandpa Muto with one level 4 monster in our ranks? Let's find out. Finally, we've come full circle back to the man who sold us the one monster we've been humiliating our opponents with. He also plays an Exodia arm himself, so we have to destroy it in order to claim it. Grandpa plays only 5 monsters, so 1 fewer than Tear, however his map is tiny. Like, tiny. It's also a square with the starting spots attached onto these 2 sides. No lanes, no obstacles, no gaps, just a small open square. Absolutely horrendous for us, but these small spawn corners will come in very handy here, as we might be able to use them as choke points. The first strategy I attempt is luring his monsters into this tight space and destroying them one by one while he attacks the symbol, and this works out alright for the right arm and the Karibo. But then, for some reason, Grandpa starts to focus our right leg instead of the symbol, which is actually smart, but not typical for the AI up until this point, and after 3 attacks, our leg is gone. Let's try that again. I place both the symbol and the leg on the edge between our corner and the open field, trying to prevent his monsters from moving closer and forcing them to attack our symbol while chipping away at them. This, however, results in both of our symbol and leg ending up very low on PP, meaning that Grandpa can even choose which way to beat our ass, so we need to try something different. I call it a day for the time being and return later in the night. This time, we start by placing both pieces on the edge immediately. The strategy now is entirely different. Bait out some of his monsters, destroy 1 or 2 of them, and then use an open gap in his defense to rush towards his earth symbol and defeat it quickly. Thank goodness that our right leg is quite mobile, which almost makes up for the horrendous attack range. Getting around his monsters proves to be difficult, but we manage to barely survive it without even destroying any of his monsters. But here comes the next problem. Can we actually outrun his 5 monsters taking turns on our jewel? Well, we can use our corner in a way that lets Grandpa only attack with 2 monsters for the first few turns each, so we can buy quite a bit of time, and our right leg actually manages to attack his symbol, dealing almost enough damage to destroy it in 1 hit. There's only 20 PP left, only 1 measly attack, and we can actually advance to the next stage. It's so close to our grasp. Unfortunately, Grandpa manages to take 3 hits at our symbol during the next turn, but this very moment proves why it was so important to go back, redo the start of this challenge all over again, and go for the extra PP on our symbol. We tank all 3 of these attacks, and our symbol stands tall with 44 PP remaining. This would not have been possible with the initial stat distribution. Very nice. We kick Grandpa in his brown jewel once again, and we did it. Stage 1 is actually cleared only using the right leg of Exodia from the starting shop. I'm quite shocked, to be frank. Before starting this challenge, I would have never guessed that this is possible. I initially thought I'd have to duplicate at least 1 monster, or do the whole challenge with the already fused Exodia right from the start. This proves that with enough patience, determination, and the heart of the cards, you can achieve anything you set your... Oh, we didn't grab Grandpa's Exodia piece because we didn't even destroy it. Oh boy. Folks, we can't proceed like this. I need to get this arm if we want any chance at beating the rest of the game, so we gotta redo Grandpa. But it's okay, there's gotta be a way to do this. I load back into a few different save states, trying to figure out if there's a slightly different direction I could take, and the first few attempts prove fruitless. But we're not giving up, not when we're this close. By starting with one of the save states and playing things slightly differently, our right leg almost gets demolished, but can barely survive the 3 attacks and destroy Grandpa's Exodia piece in turn. So far, so good. Then I try to run around his defenses, but get destroyed by his Karibo immediately. I load back so we can try again. This time, we can stay behind, block incoming enemies with our symbol, and destroy the Karibo as well, so that there are no monsters preventing our sneak around, as well as fewer attacks threatening our symbol. Now we gotta pray that it's enough to win this game. We managed to hit his symbol once, but sadly we get destroyed before we can deal the final blow. His monsters simply deal too much damage. But wait a second. What if there was a way to use this incredibly tiny yet open stage to our advantage? On one hand, this map features fire tiles as well as wood tiles. If our symbol is standing right here, his monsters mostly have to stand on fire tiles in order to attack, reducing the incoming damage slightly. Not a major difference by any stretch of the meta, and probably not enough to win, but what I noticed by trying this is huge. There's this one single corner that we can jump around diagonally, and Grandpa will have alternating turns of one attack, then two attacks, and so on, reducing the incoming damage significantly. These are probably the very last tiny details we can squeeze out of this map and this fight overall, but would you know it, it buys us enough time. More than enough even, as our symbol remains with more than 100 PP, meaning that it could tank another attack and we would survive another turn if necessary. But it isn't. Our right leg deals the second and final blow to Grandpa Mudo, and we've officially beaten stage 1 and can also take his Exodia piece for the rest of this run. Magnificent. Folks, I hope you have fun watching this video. At this point of writing, I still don't know if this challenge will be successful with this insane rule set, but I'm having a blast playing it and writing along. Since making these videos is a ton of work, I would hugely appreciate it if you can like the video, leave a comment to push the algorithm, and also subscribe to this channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh content in the near future. Now, let's see what awaits us for the next phase of this challenge. Alright, before we head into the second stage, we visit Grandpa's shop first and get our third Exodia piece right away. Having 3 monsters is definitely a relief, but the game also ups the difficulty quite a bit here, so we gotta stay cautious. Since we can choose the order of opponents from here on out, this is quite an important decision. We want to clear the easier opponents first, as we'll get XP from them and level up our pieces, meaning they'll be stronger in the fights after. I contemplate whether to choose Mokuba or Mako first, but I decide on the former. His stage is quite small and has 2 lanes on the sides that are fairly tight. This will help us to deal with his monsters in smaller waves. The difference to the previous 3 fights is staggering. There's not too much strategy here. I position the symbol so that his monsters tend to attack it instead of our capsules, while we try to destroy them quickly. Since his monsters are all decently mobile, we do get overwhelmed a bit, so the next moves need to happen cautiously. If we lose a single monster here, it won't get any XP at the end, which would be detrimental. We need every level up we can get. Luckily, Mokuba's dragon takes the bait and attacks only our symbol, while we get rid of some of the other monsters. Sadly, despite being a pretty high level already, our right leg is not able to one-shot his scorpion here, missing it by just 3 PP. But karma is good to us in this fight, as a few turns later, our left leg barely survives an attack from Mokuba and lives on with 1 single PP. That was pretty close. Ultimately, his monsters fall, and while his dragon deals quite a lot of damage, our symbol survives with around 180 PP, proving yet again that going back and creating a new save file with the extra PP was worth the time. Our monsters survive, and our arm gets the final blow onto his dragon, receiving an instant level up. Our symbol reaches level 2 as well, and now we have to decide how to distribute these points. It's amazing how this challenge is so difficult that every little choice feels like it matters. Exactly how a strategy game like this should feel like, in my opinion. We're already starting to struggle with our AP, often not being able to move all of our pieces in one turn, but I do think that increasing the effect strength matters more here. After all, our right leg will likely be able to one-shot some monsters now, and I think this is worth more than any extra AP we would get. Let's hope I'm not proven wrong. Next up is Mako. Mako is typically a rather easy opponent. Big open field, monsters that don't fit with his attribute. He does play 2 light monsters, but they have way more mobility than the rest, so the plan is to place our pieces on this side, let them come first, and then take out the rest. Our symbol will be bait as usual. This strategy works basically perfectly. I do make save states just in case, but this is the first fight where I don't need them at all. Like 0 loads, can you believe it? Mako is not the best at this game, let's leave it at that. Near the end, I could have easily finished his root water and end the game right there, but I noticed that our symbol still has enough PP to tank a few attacks, and our 2 legs are quite mobile pieces, so I wait with the finishing blow and send them running towards Mako's symbol. This actually works out, as root water cannot chase down our symbol in time, and Marco loses in an even more humiliating way than I had thought. We get a bit more XP because of it, and move on to the next one. I choose Weevil as number 3 in the stage because his wood pieces are not extremely mobile and his stage has a few obstacles we could easily use to play Ring Around the Rosie. Fortunately for us, this is not even necessary this time. Because of the attack range of our arm, we can actually dish out a few attacks even before Weevil's pieces arrive. He then moves in with everything he has, but we answer with the first one-shot in this run. Here's to many more. Just like with Marco, we leave him with one desperate root water while our legs run towards his backline. It does take quite a few turns, but in the end we manage to chase down his symbol and deal the final blow. As I already explained in the Karibo challenge video, which you should definitely watch as well, I have somewhat of a personal vendetta against Weevil in this game. I just have to defeat him in the worst way imaginable for him, and kick him in the duel until he's knocked out is certainly part of that. 50 killing blow XP for our left leg, and only 2 more to go. Something noteworthy here is that during this fight, our arm actually advanced to level 3 and received a special ability. I didn't know that this was a thing, since the legs haven't received any abilities yet, but I'll take it, it might prove useful in the future. Next up is Mai, and she's usually quite a formidable opponent. She uses her attribute very well, playing exclusively wind and fire monsters. Her fire monsters have high attack, the others have high attack and defense, and they all have good to fantastic mobility. She's definitely more intimidating than the 3 before, but honestly having our Exodia pieces already at level 4 or higher makes things way more relaxed. I do have to use some save states here and there to prevent some monster destructions, but the general strategy is the same as usual and quite easy to execute. We lure her in, use our symbol as bait, and then destroy them one by one. Even though her monsters have insane movement, their attack ranges are quite poor, which makes baiting them and dodging attacks altogether much easier. In the end, only one of her monsters remains, and it can both attack and move only diagonally. Luckily, our diagonal-only monster is not aligned, and the other can move more freely, so we can just place all of our pieces on the parts of the grid her monster cannot reach, and just walk over to a symbol. We destroy it, get some extra XP, and advance to the final opponent of Stage 2. Our last obstacle in the stage is Rex, and he's also one of the tougher opponents. His stage is quite open, his monsters have quite a lot of PP, and some of them have decent attack ranges. Scary, but we will prevail, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, this is the first fight where our low AP really bites us in the ass. The strategy does remain the same, but once the brawling really starts to get heated, I can barely move 3 out of our 4 pieces on the boards, let alone all of them. This leads to some amazing plays being left on the table, simply because there are no points left to play them. What a shame. Due to this, I find myself reloading prior board states quite a few times until I can finally find a strategy that works with this rather unintentional handicap. I suppose our high PP count saved us 2 or 3 times by now, so it's only fair to have to deal with the consequences. With great PP, there comes great responsibility after all.
Hey Weevil, check it out. My dinosaur is horny.
The way I played this board up until the end, I was focusing on preventing any monster losses. We need all the XP for each and every one of our Exodia pieces, and Stage 3 is increasing in difficulty quite a bit, so I don't want to start with one leg down. For some reason, Rex sometimes seems to direct his attacks at our monsters instead of our symbol. Quite weird, considering that some of our previous matches were only even beatable because the AI would refuse to attack our monsters if the symbol was anywhere nearby. Unfortunately for us, the board state near the end has one of our legs completely exposed to Rex's boss monster, and if he wanted to, he could easily destroy it with one attack. But for some odd reason, he does not choose to do that this time around. He keeps attacking into our symbol, we retaliate and take home the win. All of our pieces level up, including the symbol of course, and I take a moment to decide how to distribute these points. This very fight has made one thing painfully clear. We need more AP. Our monsters will only eat up more and more AP the higher the level becomes, and we're already struggling hard. However, there's a lot, and I mean a lot, of value in the effect strength stat. The fewer attacks we need to destroy opposing pieces, the better our chances are at finishing this challenge altogether. Ultimately, I decided to put 2 points into AP, since going for more attack strength will probably not result in our Exodia pieces one-shotting monsters they wouldn't one-shot already. And being able to move all of our pieces to block incoming attacks can be crucial for our survival. With this set, we have officially cleared stage 2. No additional monsters this time, and we move on to stage number 3. Boy, is this gonna be exciting. We arrive at stage 3, and for some reason, I really like to choose Bandit Keith as the first opponent here. I don't know, I already did that as a kid, so it's likely just a deeply ingrained habit. The other characters would also be similarly decent choices, except maybe for one of them. One opponent that I'm actually incredibly scared of, and one of the few that I believe will certainly make or break this challenge. Anyway, Keith is a solid choice. We have separated lanes with obstacles in between them that allow for hiding and not too many crazy monsters we need to worry about. Pretty solid, all things considered. Since I don't know which lane he might rush first, I spread our pieces fairly even, which is quite unusual for this challenge, but we gotta roll with it. As he approaches, I try to get rid of the needle balls quickly, so that we don't get overwhelmed a few turns later. While there are not many differences to how previous fights went down, it is noticeable that the monsters in stage 3 often pack more of a punch. Tanking 130 plus damage will not be uncommon depending on the matchup, so we gotta stay careful. The AP boost definitely paid off, as we can use all of our monsters every single turn, and after a few smaller brawls, most of his monsters fall. Our left leg sneaks around the stage to get rid of his fairly dangerous barrel dragon, but since we get the first attack, we can destroy it quite easily. The last few monsters fall over, and we sack in the first win of the stage. My second choice is Pegasus. If you haven't listened to his OST yet, make sure you do, it's absolutely incredible. Also make sure to check out Mice and Rex's OSTs, they are also brilliant, but I forgot to mention that a few minutes ago. Alright, Pegasus is typically a very tame opponent. He plays light, but only 2 light monsters and keeps them in the backline until the very end. Weird strategy. His other monsters are also really nothing to worry about, so I slightly abandoned the usual strategy and faced them with our own monsters head on. After a few turns, the symbol shields them again and we blast through his ranks quickly. His last monster is only able to attack diagonally, so we can do something we already did to Mai. Move all of our pieces to unattackable parts of the grid and hunt down his symbol with ease. We get some extra XP and our own symbol gets a well-deserved level up. Once again, I have to decide, how much do we put in AP and how much into effect strength? If we manage to pass stage 3, we will get 2 more Exodia pieces and our collection will be full. Moving all of these pieces frequently will likely require more AP than we can currently generate, but in order for this to even matter, we have to beat stage 3 first, and I'm really not sure how likely that is, at least without losing any of our current Exodia pieces. You know what, I'm just gonna prioritize effect strength, so our monsters have higher stats once we face this one dangerous opponent. Everything that might happen afterwards is a problem of the far distant future. Next in line, Bakura, and while similarly harmless, we can also proceed with a similar approach. Run into his monsters first, then try to bait attacks with our symbol and finish them off afterwards. Going for Bakura's symbol is tempting at this point, but we can't do it without losing a monster in the process, so we gotta leave it be. This fight was surprisingly quick, but it won't stay like that for long, I can promise you that. Okay, I kinda eat my words here, since next up is Odeon, and this fight is so easy at this point it's not even funny. We have an advantage over Earth monsters, and this becomes glaringly evident once we one-shot a monster that has over 300 PP. I gotta say, it feels pretty good. This fight is so easy, I almost forget to make any save states along the way, and who would have known I didn't need a single one of them. Odeon falls blisteringly fast, and while our right leg, the MVP of this run, which single-handedly survived the first 5 opponents on its own, reaches max level, our symbol is a measly 2 points away from leveling up too, and giving us a lot more fighting power via the effect strength stat. 2 XP points. Ridiculous. I'm not sure if we could have manipulated this somehow by playing some fights differently, but it doesn't matter anymore. Now we have to face the final opponent of stage 3 and the man who will truly test our capabilities. Can we advance to the final section of this challenge, where we finally get to use all 5 Exodia pieces? Or is this run gonna end around the halfway mark, unable to overcome this obstacle without bending the rules? Time to find out. Ladies and gents, this is Marek Ishtar.
Listen.
Listen to me, Billy.
But my name's Marek.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
So, now that I've spent a considerable amount of time hyping this opponent up, I also feel obligated to explain why exactly I feel this way. Let's get one thing out of the way first. Marek's stage, Guru's Garden, is ridiculous. It has these dice fields with awkward gaps in between that are weird to move around. Now that I think about it, it reminds me a lot of these extra levels in SpongeBob the movie, the game for the PlayStation 2. Remember those? God, I wish they would remake that game as well. Okay, back to Marek. The brutality of the stage is not just about having very limited movement possibilities, it's also the fact that most of Marek's monsters have really good mobility and attack range. Like, really good. He also plays the Dark attribute and has quite a few hard hitters in his team. Some of them have quite large PP, so probably not too much one-shotting in this matchup. This also means that our symbol won't be able to buy us as much time as usual, since it won't be able to tank as many attacks. We gotta act fast. Lastly, his stage is pretty small overall and has no obstacles aside these awkward gaps I mentioned before. We have no choke points to control how many enemies hit us at once, and we'll just have to destroy them quickly without dying ourselves. Not gonna lie, if we lose 1 or even 2 pieces here, I'd be fine with that. We'll get 2 more afterwards, and while those will be level 1, I think that if I pick the right opponent for our first fight in stage 4, we can probably beat them with the symbol level up we'd get from Marek here anyway, and then have our lost pieces ready for action again. Either way, let's just hope we can win this somehow. The fight starts. I position our pieces so that we can hopefully catch the first Ryukishin that approaches us and then steadily deal with the rest. What I do forget, however, is that Ryukishin, while having quite strong attack, has only 210 PP, which is like just 5 more than Kuribo, who we've one-shot like 2 fights ago. Incredible, how did I not realize this earlier? We destroy both of them in 1 turn without taking any damage whatsoever. And it is now that I notice that I've been probably hyping up Marek way too much. Yeah, sorry about that, but I was genuinely scared that we'd have an insanely hard time here. And don't get me wrong, Marek still gives us a run for our money. We need to play every turn extra careful so that his insane attack ranges don't catch us off guard, as his monsters do hit really hard. But except for Zoa, we can actually one-hit every single one of them. That feels really good, I'm not gonna lie. Luckily, Zoa aligns quite well with our right leg, meaning that we can trade blows and then back off without getting destroyed. And near the end here, Marek does have an opportunity to destroy one of our pieces, but placing both the symbol and the left leg in close proximity does distract his attack for some reason. We deal with the Penguin and Zoa in the last turn, and Marek falls much more easily than I would have thought. Stage 3 is cleared, our symbol levels up again, and this time I put all 3 points into AP. Something tells me that we'll need it. Finally, we can tackle stage 4, but before that we have to visit the shop, of course. Grandpa sells us the left arm, and once we put it into our active lineup, he also sells us the headpiece. Now, Exodia is complete. If you've watched all the way up until this point, first off, thank you so much for your continued support, but secondly, you might be thinking something along these lines. We've beaten the last 2 stages with only 3 monsters, and the first one even with just 1 single capsule. Isn't the rest of this run a piece of cake in comparison? And yes, you are absolutely right. However, there are a few reasons why the last 10 fights of this game, and especially the final 5, can still be a challenge to our run here. Firstly, we don't have shields that absorb full attacks like last time. Our enemies have legitimate shots at destroying our pieces in a couple of attacks, and this can easily snowball into losing more and more pieces without being able to recover properly. Secondly, there are quite a few light opponents ahead of us, and they actually use strong light monsters too, so we'll have quite a few uphill battles to fight. Another problem is that using our symbol as a shield is becoming less and less effective the stronger our opponents get. Our symbol is already almost maxed out on PP, and opponents' attacks are becoming stronger, meaning the risk of losing the game due to symbol destruction is growing steadily. Now, while all of this is true, we do have a ton of effect strength from our symbol by now, so even our level 1 monsters will hit quite hard, possibly even one-shot some monsters, and they will grow more powerful with each level up. I'll just be honest with you, with all risks accounted for, I'm still like 99% sure that I can easily win this challenge using these 5 pieces. And this is not really the point of doing a challenge run, is it? The last challenge run was already a bit too easy for my liking, and with this Exodia challenge, we've already overcome incredible obstacles, even winning situations I would have thought are straight up unwinnable. I just feel it in my bones that we have to take it up a notch. So I'll do the only sensible thing I can think of. I will fuse all of these pieces to Exodia, the Forbidden Lord, reducing our forces to one strong boss monster that costs a lot of AP, can only attack once per turn, and will be reset to level 1. And while we could fuse Exodia in a free duel outside of the campaign, I'm not gonna do that. We will do it properly in one of the campaign fights, and then we'll win it. First, we have to level up our new pieces to level 2 though. Alright, stage 4. Ishizu is typically who I fight first here. She's not that much of a threat. Having 5 pieces proves to be incredibly effective, especially because we already have so much effect strength from our symbol. There's really not much to talk about here. We blast through Ishizu's forces, one-shotting most of them, and run towards her symbol. Just like in the last challenge run, she tries to sneak attack our own symbol with her Sky Dragon. But A, we already know about this old trick, and B, our symbol has such great PP that it really doesn't matter. Her efforts are ultimately in vain as we strike her down and take home the win. Obviously, our fusion is not possible yet, so we have to defeat one more opponent with this lineup. So this battle could be the one where we manage to fuse our pieces, although 2 of our monsters are still missing a level up each. If you don't know this game well, or if you have not seen the previous challenge run, let me introduce you to Shadi's map. Both symbols are automatically placed in the middle, and the whole fight becomes a race to see who can rush to the center first. Shadi plays quite a few monsters with high mobility, but I have a good feeling about this. Due to the chaotic nature of this fight, we are pulled into multiple brawls early on, all of which we win of course, but at what cost? Fortunately no piece losses though, and our head piece gets the level up shortly after. We can win this duel very easily, and we get enough XP for our final piece to reach level 2. There was no save of trying to achieve this mid-duel, but it doesn't really matter, since if we fuse Exodia at the very start of the next duel, it will only cost us 1 additional turn. Also, Exodia will not have any XP from this duel's win, meaning it will actually make the rest of the game a little bit more difficult. Like, a very little, tiny bit. Anyway, Shadi falls, and we advance. Alright, this is gonna be epic. And what a suitable opponent for this ordeal. Marek's stage also features a very cool mechanic, and now that I think about it, these 2 stages have probably the most interesting mechanics by far. They should just remake this game with more stage mechanics. Or just re-release it on Steam, maybe? Please? Konami? We place our monsters, summon them from their little eggs, and fuse the one monster that will make the final part of this video likely the most interesting. A bit unlikely, considering how ridiculous the first 2 fights went, but here goes. The Summoned Lord Exodia. This is probably the most satisfying capsule to play in the entire game. Just look at this beauty. Of course there are other fusions, but some of them require much more gameplay to acquire, and Exodia is just special, isn't it? Unlike in most other Yu-Gi-Oh games, we don't just get an instant win here, but we do have Obliterate. You'll see it in a minute. Let's just quickly remind ourselves why fusing 5 high-level monsters into one single level 1 monster is actually an insane decision this late into the game. First off, Dark monsters gain attack and PP when they level up. Even though the Lord's base stats are quite high, they still pale in comparison to a level 9 Dark monster, even if it's just Karibo or something.
That would be absolutely... Oh, crap in the Nile. I just chose Karibo as my deckmaster, didn't I?
This will change as we level up, of course, but there are other problems. Having fewer monsters means being able to dish out fewer attacks, which will increase the amount of potential blows we'll have to tank ourselves in return. These blows are also no longer spread out across up to 6 pieces, but only 2. This makes for a hell of a difference, but you'll see for yourself. Finally, Exodia also uses a ton of AP, especially if you use Obliterate, and we're not quite rich in AP anyway, so yeah. This will increase the difficulty of this run by a ridiculous amount. Perfect. With these things in mind, we'll probably have to adapt our strategy a little bit. Exodia can tank 3 to 4 blows, depending on the enemy's damage, and while our symbol can sponge up a bit more, it's not that easy to keep so many monsters distracted. Exodia does have incredible range overall, but this will not cut it if we really want to beat the game like this. Luckily, we do have the special ability. Obliterate is an ability with quite a big range around Exodia that inflicts damage based on an attack value that is slightly higher than its actual attack value. It does hit friendly targets as well though, so we need to be extra careful whenever we use it. It's also limited to 1 use per duel, meaning that we need to find the perfect moment to pop it every single time. In this fight, we get rid of a few monsters first, since they are all easily one-shot. We got really lucky with that Blast Juggler, focusing our symbol from the very start. And with 5 monsters left on Merrick's side, we can use Obliterate to decimate 3 of them easily, leaving only 2 more to finish off. I think this illustrates how important this ability is going to be in this run. If we had to attack each one of these individually, they would have retaliated and probably destroyed our Lord and Savior immediately. Let's just hope it's enough for the remaining 12 opponents. The final 2 pieces fall, and we proceed with Exodia at level 3. Next in line is Yami Bakura. This stage is Darkness Incarnate, so all of our and his attacks will be very powerful here. The AP problem becomes very evident with our level 3 Exodia, and I can't even move it in the first turn. Feels pretty shitty, not gonna lie. Our Lord does make up for it with his insane attack value though. We get an insane one-shot on Bakura's Trihorn Dragon with 325 PP, which is just pure insanity. Of course, Bakura also deals a lot of damage, so we gotta stay careful and use our symbol as bait again, just like at the very start. Makes me a bit nostalgic. So this fight is a lot tougher with our current lineup, and after a few tries and different strategies that lead to me either losing my symbol or the Lord himself, I finally find a way to bait a good number of his monsters into Obliterate range. The only surviving monster moves and attacks diagonally only, and luckily our Exodia is out of reach and our symbol can simply move onto unattackable tiles. There is one huge problem though. The Lord also only moves in increments that basically come down to the same problem. If targets are on the wrong fields on the grid, he cannot attack them. That's a horrible aspect to have on the only monster we use in battle, and it does make me doubt whether the rest of the game will really be beatable with this single piece. Obliterate somewhat makes up for this, of course, because it covers a lot of range around Exodia, but it's only usable once per duel. This is going to be very tricky from here on out, isn't it? I try to follow through and go for Bakura's symbol, but he's not as stupid as some of the early opponents and keeps his symbol on the unattackable tiles of the map, never making a mistake. I actually tried to bait him for 40 turns or so, and he just doesn't do it. It's a draw, and drawing means having to surrender eventually or reload the save and just try again. We reload a save state, of course, and I try something different. We know we have one single use of Obliterate. If we manage to bait all of his monsters into attack range, but not into destroying Exodia attack range, and also have our symbol on a spot where it can move out of the Obliterate range just before it happens, we might be able to win. Easy, right? Well, actually, for whatever god-given reason, we managed to pull it off immediately. We have quite a lucky position to start from here. Bakura moves his Pumpkin just within range, his other monsters are in already, and our symbol can just barely move out of range diagonally. It's almost like a scripted clutch moment in any given anime story. That's the likelihood of this happening so quickly, but of course we are gonna take it. We obliterate Bakura's forces and he finally goes down. Only one more opponent left before we move on to the final stage. Seto is our final opponent here, and that's quite fitting, isn't it? And we will defeat him using Exodia exclusively, which is even more fitting. This is a map where Exodia's mobility truly shines. We rush in, destroying one monster in the process before even taking any damage. Then, after some consideration on how to proceed, as well as a very unlucky attack value here, making us just 1 PP short of one-shotting his Skelangel, I decide to go for his Blue Eyes White Dragon while it's still in the unhatched capsule form so we can actually one-shot it. After a short brawl, Exodia levels up and is now able to one-shot Skelangel. Wonderful. We do have to back off shortly, forcing Seto to spread out his forces a bit. While he tries to chase down Exodia, we can use the aforementioned mobility to get a few attacks in without taking further damage. We use our symbol as bait in order to lure the last few opponents closer and force them onto a tile that is within Exodia's limited attack range, and after a couple more blows, this fight is over rather quickly. This is not the last we'll see of Seto, at least I hope it isn't, but for now we've definitely wiped the floor with him. Ladies and gents, we are finally here. Stage 5, where we will meet the last 5 opponents before we can claim our victory. Our first contender is a face surely familiar to most of you. Pegasus returns and he is out for revenge. He plays a very mixed lineup again, but do not let that fool you. He is a force to be reckoned with now. This stage has yet another original mechanic. By placing our symbol on one of these 4 tiles, we can change the attribute value of half of the tiles to the respective element. We pick Darkness obviously, and we place Exodia on them. Now the usual plan follows. The symbol is bait, Exodia destroys monsters, we save Obliterate for a later point. The battle is tough and requires a lot of saves coming to find the right place, but we manage to pull through. However, with our current placing, his last monster and Exodia cannot attack each other due to diagonal shenanigans again, and this ultimately results in the same situation we had against Bakura. But Dino, you might say, didn't you save Obliterate the whole duel for this exact moment? And it's so nice of you to ask. Well, yes, of course I did, but attribute advantages are so strong in this game that Obliterate, even with a powered up Exodia here, is not strong enough to one-shot this very regular light monster. A disgrace, I know. Change of plans. I go up to his symbol in an attempt to lure it onto an attackable tile of the map. Probably fruitless, I know, but I have to try, just for the tiny chance that he would actually do it, just like some of his predecessors did.
I do.
Anyone besides Tristan?
I do.
If we were to get an attack onto his symbol, it would probably do enough damage for our Obliterate to do the rest. We reach it quickly, and as expected, Pegasus simply moves it onto tiles that we cannot reach. But then, just as I'm about to give up, something interesting happens. One of the tiles we cannot attack is this corner back here, and Pegasus moves onto it, even though he really wouldn't need to. For the next few turns, he repeats the same two movements. Move out of the corner onto the middle position here, which is the original starting position for his symbol, and then move back into the corner. Then, it finally hits me. What if we block that middle tile with our own symbol? How would Pegasus react? Of course, he'd have a different tile he could move to diagonally to dodge our Exodia, but would the AI really recognize that? I need to know. After many turns of dreadfully dragging our symbol over the whole map, I realize that, unfortunately, this cannot possibly work. Why? Well, even if Pegasus did the unimaginable and fell for our block maneuver here, the middle tile is in attack range of his monster, which obviously followed our symbol the whole time. So even if this strategy yielded us the necessary attack, we'd still need one more turn to pull off our Obliterate, and our symbol simply wouldn't survive until then. Folks, the PP is just not big enough. Quite depressing considering how long Pegasus and I have been going at it, and since it's already late at night, I decide to return the next day with a fresh mind and hopefully some new ideas. Alright, new day, new chance. I start off similarly, but this time I put Exodia on the light tile instead of the dark one, so that we actually align with that one annoying light monster that ruined our chances previously. I go for the same strategy, and I'll be honest with you, it really doesn't go very well. I'm constantly on the back foot against Pegasus, trying to survive his army of 9 freaking monsters against our single one. After a few more disappointing runs, I finally reload to the start of the game and go for a different route. At this point, I'm not sure how this would possibly go better, but I start similarly nonetheless, destroying his first monster here, and it is then that I remember how extremely mobile Exodia actually is. I mean, it can move up to 4 fields diagonally, and I had never fully considered how far that really is. It might be time to try something risky. I send Exodia way ahead towards Pegasus' symbol, and as chance might have it, it actually aligns with Exodia's movement and attack pattern. It seems that with his full army still on the field and our only attacking force still so far away, the AI doesn't recognize this threat. We need to try this. Pegasus does finally react by moving his symbol away, but for some strange reason he moves it diagonally and it is still just barely in attack range, so I send Exodia way deeper into enemy territory for an attack. We did it. At this point, this is almost a guaranteed win, since even if Pegasus moves his symbol to an adjacent tile now, we can still hit it with Obliterate if we come close enough. And if we survive, of course, as special abilities cannot be used in the same turn you move the monster. He calls his army back, trying to protect the symbol with an onslaught of attacks, but Exodia's PP is simply too big to be bothered by this. If we can just survive one more turn and then pop the Obliterate, we can No. Once more, Pegasus, with the ancient powers of the Millennium Eye, sees right through our pathetic strategy and disrupts it in the most stupid way imaginable. He does not move his symbol out of the way at all, even though it means 100% certain death for him. Why would the AI not recognize this? Seriously, when I battled him yesterday and it was just our symbols and one monster each who both could not attack their targets, Pegasus would always stay on the tiles our Exodia couldn't reach. But now he's not bothered at all. He essentially surrenders. My guess is that it might have something to do with still having most of his monsters nearby and how the order of movements is decided on the enemy turn, or something like that. The AI might believe it can destroy Exodia, thus doesn't bother to dodge initially, even though it actually can't. Then, when it quote-unquote realizes that, the decision is already made. Or maybe it's something completely different, who knows. Whatever the reason, we will stick to the same mindset we had in the first few battles. Winning by your opponent's mistakes is still very much winning, so best not question the logic and hope it happens again when we need it. 21 down, only 4 to go. I can only hope we are similarly lucky in the next fight, because I'm quite certain it will be the hardest obstacle yet and ultimately decide whether we can finish this bonus challenge or not. Let's give it a shot. While we're still a few fights away from the final boss, Ishizu 2 is undoubtedly the most difficult opponent for this challenge. Why? I'll explain. Her map is tricky to move around. This can be a positive, since you can use the narrow passages as choke points, but Exodia's movement is really hindered here, meaning that rushing Ishizu's symbol early on is basically impossible. Believe me, I've tried, you'll see in a minute. She also recognizes Exodia's threat a mile away and always moves her symbol to unattackable tiles. She probably just saw what happened to Pegasus and decided that she will not play as stupid as he did. Well, fair enough. Furthermore, Ishizu is a light type, and she plays a whopping 5 light monsters, all of which have good to insane freaking movement and attack ranges. They all require 2 hits to kill, and obliterate one-shots none of them. 0. On top of that, they do considerable amount of damage, both to Exodia and our symbol, purely because of the element advantage, and that means that we really don't have enough time to slowly tear her defenses apart either. Want me to stop already? No. Another problem is that her map is actually quite fair for both starting positions, so changing it also doesn't seem to do the trick. Initially, I tried to let her approach me first, trying to use the choke points on the upper side to chip away at her monsters, but they always end up surrounding and destroying us. As you can see, moving in different directions also doesn't really help. That's why my next strategy was to rush her symbol in hopes of getting 1 sneak attack in, and then banking on surviving 1 turn in order to finish her off with a nice obliterate. I mean, it worked in the past, right? However, Ishizu abuses her powers and always sees what I'm about to do before it happens, so she can dodge accordingly. Finally, I tried to switch sides in hope of finding an opening, and while I was already quite frustrated and tired at this point, I think it's safe to say that doing this doesn't seem to help much at all. And for those of you who don't believe me any of this, here is a sped up montage of the most important moments, so you can feel the pain that I felt doing all of this in real time. Enjoy. Alright, enough tries for today. As I'm writing this, I'm seriously starting to think Ishizu 2 might just be an obstacle we cannot overcome with one single monster, but I don't want to give up just yet. Maybe I can find one combination of moves, one chain of events that somehow results in us getting the upper hand here. Well, I'll put it down for now and try later. If all fails though, I'll have to change one of the rules, and I'll have to decide which one and to what degree. Let's hope it turns out unnecessary. See you next time. So, I set out to finish this chapter of the script once I finally managed to beat her, and right now, as of writing this, it's more than 2 weeks later. I've tried numerous times, going for different strategies, moves, routes, etc. Long story short, it was all for nothing. Maybe there is something incredibly specific I have not discovered in that time, but from my perspective, Ishizu seems absolutely impossible to beat with the current rules. One strong darkness piece is simply not enough, and there are multiple reasons for this. Anytime I go for attacks, most of her monsters can retaliate immediately. Her monsters take simply too many attacks to destroy, and we always arrive at a point where our pieces fall first. Rushing her was the only thing I figured could be possible, but due to Exodia's movement and attack patterns, she can simply put a symbol on the wrong tiles and counter this strategy completely. Obliterate is not strong enough to one-shot her light monsters, so running in and using it to get rid of most of her army is not feasible either. The only way this could somehow be possible is the same way some of the earlier fights went. The AI would have to make a mistake. She'd have to be in striking distance of our Exodia and not move on an unreachable tile, and then we'd have to attack, survive another turn, which in and of itself would be incredibly unlikely, and then pop and obliterate to finish her off. Theoretically, if there was a sequence of events that would somehow allow for this situation to occur, for Ishizu to make such a grave mistake, it could be enough, but I simply could not find a method to achieve that. Maybe someday someone else will figure something out, but as it stands right now, Ishizu is where this challenge ends. Now, of course I don't want to end the video here, since I do want to find out how tough the last 3 opponents might be. I do have a feeling that we can beat them, so there are 2 routes we can take now. The first one is to go back to our original idea of using the 5 Exodia pieces and not fuse them into the Summoned Lord. Problem with that is, and I'm gonna be brutally honest here, this would basically guarantee us a win. I've said it before, I have zero doubts in my mind that every single opponent remaining would fall quite easily under these conditions. Maybe we would lose a piece here or there, but 4 pieces would surely be enough to destroy Ishizu 2, the secret final boss of this game if you play the Darkness element, and even 3 or 2 pieces would be enough for the next 2 opponents while the others recover for the final fight. The other route we can take is the following. Since Ishizu bested us, we'll slightly alter the new rules just for her fight and her fight only, and support our Summoned Lord and Savior with 1 fresh Exodia piece from a different game file. And to circle back right to the incredible start of this run, we will take the right leg of Exodia, our absolute MVP that was able to destroy the first 5 opponents entirely on its own. It will be level 1 with 0 XP to still make things as challenging as possible, and surely with this additional piece in our hands, we will finally be able to defeat this surprisingly formidable. Okay. I'll be brutally honest one more time, I already tried this a few days ago, and lo and behold, it was not enough. It just wasn't, I don't know what to tell you. Using 2 pieces for this fight, we're still only left with 2 options. Rush her symbol or stay back and slowly destroy the incoming attackers. Rushing in still doesn't work as the right leg is very slow and dangerously squishy. 2 attacks from any of her monsters and the thing is broken. There's no way it can reach her in time, and even if it could, it does like 90 damage to her light pieces, give or take, so if we were to land and obliterate on her symbol, we'd still need like 3 attacks from the leg to finish her off. This is absolutely not gonna happen. So of course I tried staying back and defending, but even there, the right leg wasn't really able to assist all too much. It still dies way too quickly to do noticeable damage, and we just end up running into the same problems as before, just a couple of turns later than usual. Ishizu's really a tough one, isn't she?
She's a mysterious character shrouded in mystery, which is just another way of saying she's boring as all get out.
Now I've had enough. I need to get this challenge under the belt, so we'll do the only sensible thing and also add the left leg of our lord. Surely we can finally beat Ishizu 2, right? Right, guys? Since I believe that rushing her is still not quite feasible with this lineup, we'll attempt the other strategy again. We move to the upper corner and bait out her monsters, preferably one by one. Since we have 3 pieces now, we can use one of the legs to bait some of her monsters towards the other path, meaning that she can't flood us with a whole army at once. It's still a tight race though, as we don't have that much space to fall back, and she still has way more firepower than us. We lose the first leg relatively early in the process, but it is a necessary sacrifice. After destroying a few of her pieces, our symbol does dip quite low, but that's all part of the plan. Then we get to a very difficult board state where we cannot afford any more mistakes. I've been able to save Exodia's Obliterates up until now, and it seems like this has paid off big time. We do have a positioning problem though. Exodia is not aligned with 2 of her monsters, which can also only move in restricted patterns. Usual problem. One of them was that wind bird monster, which already got destroyed by our remaining leg, and the other one is Ganon? Ganon. And while Ganon can only move in a rather restricted pattern, its attack range is quite liberal. This means that while our Summoned Lord can never attack Ganon in this particular duel, it can attack Exodia. That's very dangerous in its own right, but it also means that if there are no other monsters or abilities to destroy Ganon, we cannot get rid of it and will ultimately lose. We need to destroy it while we still can. I set up our symbol in a way where it can move out of the Obliterate attack range, as Obliterate also obliterates our own pieces. We've seen that one, didn't we? Then, because Obliterate cannot one-shot Ishizu's light monsters, we send our last leg into the deadly attack range in order to deliver a blow to Ganon, which will not hurt it a ton, but will be enough for it to die to Exodia's special attack later. And this is exactly what happens. Our leg is sacrificed for the greater good, Ganon is destroyed, and Ishizu's last monster is left with a laughable amount of PP. She can go for an attack either on our already low symbol or the Lord himself, but both will ultimately prove fruitless. One attack and Ishizu's done for. Except that she doesn't actually do anything. She simply ends her turn without moving a single piece on the board. Weird, I have not seen this happen near the end like that. Usually they at least try to fight back, even though it's impossible for them to win. And I actually tested this, and she continues to skip her turn endlessly in this board state. It's really, really weird, but we will gladly take that. We deal the final blow, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, Ishizu is finally beaten. Both Exodia and our symbol level up, and this time all 3 points go straight into AP. We so very much need it. Folks, it took me so many attempts to do this, you can't even imagine. I started fighting Ishizu, like what, I think October of last year, and now it's the end of February. Right off the bat, I had a strong feeling that it was completely undoable with the Summoned Lord alone, but I simply had to try until I genuinely knew I couldn't do it. I have over 120 gigabytes of footage, even though back then I was recording at a lower resolution, and I didn't even record all of my attempts. Needless to say, Ishizu is the true MVP of this challenge run, and she will likely continue to be that on every run that uses Dark monsters exclusively. This elemental advantage is simply too powerful. However, I already have a few challenge ideas in mind that could work around that, and some of which could bring some nice attribute variety to this series. Can you guess what the next CMC challenge will be? Well, since I've been streaming the next challenge right on this channel here, I think some of you do already know. By the way, I've started to live stream on this channel every Thursday evening, European time, so if you're interested in seeing some live Capsule Monster Coliseum action, as well as some other Yu-Gi-Oh titles, new and old alike, make sure you tune in into the next stream. I'd love to see you there. Also, if any of you happen to guess what the next Capsule Monster Coliseum challenge will be that I've started playing off-stream already, I'll give you a shout out in the next video. Anyways, just because Ishizu was not beatable with our Exodia doesn't necessarily mean that the next opponent isn't, so let's return back to the rule set we had before all of these complications and continue as if nothing had happened. Next up is Yami Marek number 2. It feels good to finally see a different opponent. This time we're dealing with a fire attribute, which is quite rare among the cast of this game. I really enjoy this stage. The volcano eruption changing the map properties is a very nice touch. In this game, fire is quite the straightforward attribute, as it comes with a lot of attack power, but usually rather low defense and PP. very much in favor of our toolsets and quite the change of pace from the last two battles. I place our symbol at the front, luring his monsters in and trying to get rid of them one by one. This works out decently until Merrick seems to notice and simply stops approaching us. We need to throw him a bone, so I move a bit forward as well, leaving us slightly more exposed. He finally starts to make his move, and I quickly find myself surrounded by opposing monsters that do pack quite a punch. This could go wrong rather quickly, so I destroy another one with Exodia and use it as a decoy in order to get our symbol to safety. Quite a fight Merrick is putting up here. What follows is probably the most satisfying obliterate in the whole run, as we pop it just before Exodia's ultimate demise, but it completely annihilates all what's left of Merrick's glass cannon army. All three monsters die and we get the win. This is exactly how Exodia games should look, isn't it? Let's see if we can replicate that. We are finally at the penultimate opponent, and while the final encounter in this game might not be the most challenging, it is still way more serious than this joke of a fight. Relative to where he's placed in the campaign, Shadi 2 might be the most pathetic loser in the entirety of the CMC cast. Even more so than Joey. I'm not kidding, he has learned nothing from Forbidden Memories.
Say it with me, kids. Shadi is a pushover of a duelist. If you lose to him, you suck at this game, and you should end your Yu-Gi-Oh career right here, right now. I miss saying that.
If you don't know the game yet, Joey can truly wreck you right at the start. His Reapers do a considerable amount of damage and have good range on top of it. The first Shadi fight is also more than fair, a unique stage mechanic, a variety of monsters with okay stats, some of them having amazing ranges on top of it, but Shadi 2 is, I don't know, shockingly weak I guess. Although, is it really shocking?
I miss saying that.
He has a few decent monsters, he plays mostly pieces of his own attributes, but none of that is even remotely threatening. His stage is lovely though, and the dragon in the middle is such a cool mechanic. Sometimes I even come to think that Shadi's meant as a refill station. You know, an easy opponent you can clear with a limited set of monsters, while your capsules that have been destroyed by Merrick can recover for the final bout. I don't know, just an idea. Since I knew this was probably going to be a first try kill, I didn't really bother to use save states as much. We go in, destroy the first capsule, then he approaches with the rest, and after we tank a few hits, I decide to pop the obliterate and finish off the last couple of monsters with good old-fashioned attacks. At the time of deciding on this strategy, I couldn't even remember the movement pattern of his Thunder Dragon, so I just prayed that it either wasn't diagonal, or that if it was, it would align with my Summoned Lord so we don't soft lock ourselves in this fight. Imagine how embarrassing that would be. But lo and behold, it turned out to be the latter. 3 diagonal tiles, but exactly right for us. Shadi 2 is easily defeated, and both Exodia and our symbol finish this fight at level 8 and with precisely 53 XP. How freaking poetic would it be if they would both level up to max level at the same time right before the final showdown? That would have been biblical, truly. But it's not happening. This duel only rewards 34 XP, so at least they will hit max level at the very end of the challenge. If we're able to win, of course, and now it's time to put this challenge to the final test. Kaiba 2. Alright, we can do this. This time I checked for diagonal movement monsters before placing Exodia, and sure enough, there is one, but one only, so I align Exodia with it just to be safe. Today we are taking down his entire team, I can feel it. Since Kaiba does play quite a few light monsters, 2 of which are Blue Eyes White Dragons, we need to proceed with caution, since we cannot one-shot any of them. As has become standard, I try to bait a few of his pieces for some early kills, which should reduce his ability to overwhelm us later on. This works out decently, but Kaiba is also quite cautious with his moves, so I do need to bait him out a little bit more. Since the dawn of time, this challenge has thrived off of the fact that our symbol has an unusually big PP size, and we'll take advantage of that one more time. With this strategy, we rid Kaiba of a few more pieces, and our Exodia finally reaches the max level 9. This will be crucial and is very much intentional, since I did find out something a few minutes before this on a different save state. Just a turn later, the field turns from light to darkness, and the power increase we receive due to that is quite significant. This is certainly a duel destined by ancient Egyptian artifacts, crispy golden chickens, and executive producers. What a shame that these monsters didn't make it into the game.
And then your Egyptian god card will be all... Egyptian what now? Oh right, I completely forgot I had that.
Back to the duel. The reason why I went back to level up Exodia here is that I saw that at level 9, together with the stage bonus of the Dark Cycle here, Exodia's regular attacks come barely short of one-shotting his blue ices. However, Obliterate actually hits with a slightly higher attack stat, and it is enough to one-shot all of his monsters, regardless of any attribute or eye color. I just had to go for this. It's such a cool parallel to the very first anime episode of the original series, seeing Kaiba's dragons be obliterated by Exodia. Simply beautiful. 4 pieces are down with one single blow, but we have not won yet. 2 monsters remain, and once again, our big PP symbol comes in clutch. We destroy Meteor Black Dragon quickly, and now it's only Exodia the Summoned Lord against Skull Guardian of all pieces. The field is back to light by now, which I definitely underestimated, and his attacks do way more damage now, leaving our symbol at a critical state. 1 more hit and we could actually lose. Not good. Of course, I have the safety of our trusted save states, but I want to test my luck and bet it's all on one final move. I move Exodia in front of our symbol and face Skull Guardian head on. I attack once, and we need 1 more to win. Exodia can survive 1 attack from Skull Guardian, however if he moves 1 tile closer, he can still attack us while making Exodia unable to retaliate the next turn. Should that happen, I'd have to bait him into an attackable tile with our symbol, but that wouldn't actually work since our symbol is already way too low to survive another hit. So the way we can win is either by loading an earlier save state to play it safe, or if Seto simply keeps his last monster on the same tile and just attacks us without moving anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, the second best duelist in the world, according to the mastermind who created the in-universe card game himself, what do you think his perfect strategy will be? Exactly. He just stays where he's at and attacks us, knowing fully that he's gonna lose.
There are no limits when you're as brilliant as Seto Kaiba.
I mean, you could argue that Seto is completely bonkers for doing so, but I interpret it differently. I think he just knows that he does not stand the ghost of a chance and basically surrenders in the most elegant way possible. Certainly more elegant than other things he did to try and squeeze out a win. Exodia deals the final attack of this duel, of this challenge, of this incredibly long rollercoaster of emotions, and we finally win. Yes, you could certainly beat Yu-Gi-Oh! Capsule Monster Coliseum using Exodia pieces only. But no, you cannot beat the rest of the game if you fuse them into Exodia, the Summoned Lord, as soon as possible, simply because Ishizu 2 is way too strong. She should have been the final boss, not just for Dark Attribute runs, but in general. One of the strongest opponents in the whole game, that's for sure. If anyone manages to actually beat her only using the Summoned Lord at level 6, make sure to shoot me a message with the video. I'd love to cover it on here for everyone to see. Until then, we can put this challenge to rest. Dear people, thank you so much for watching again. I know it took like a million years to complete, but I had a blast playing this challenge, even though it had a few rough spots I had to maneuver around. I hope you had as much fun watching me struggle. Remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel for more content very soon. I have so many more CMC challenges planned, but I will also make sure to drop some other Yu-Gi-Oh! Content in between, since CMC challenge runs are quite long and take a lot of time to record and edit. Especially edit. If you have any ideas you'd like to see on this channel, let me know in the comments. It doesn't have to be exclusively Yu-Gi-Oh! Related, as I do plan on touching on a few other franchises too pretty soon. Also make sure to tune into our streams every Thursday evening European time. I'll see you there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.